it's hard to make that transition if you only identify as a football player, or my daughter only identifies as a gymnast. I want them to understand and try to make them a well-rounded human being and make them have interest in other areas. And that does not diminish our commitment to the game or to your sport and putting everything into that. But you have to find yourself being more than that.
I made it through the rough time. I made it through the tough time. I made it through the bad time. So now I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. I gotta get mine. Gotta weather the storm. Okay. One day we gon' get on. Talk to 'em. You ain't got a choice.
Welcome to Bailey and Buck Unplugged, where we talk about sports, entertainment, and mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. If you're struggling with mental health, we encourage you to speak up and get help. A great place to start is 988. That's the free crisis prevention lifeline. Or you can check out the resources tab at kennedykids.org. If you are in an absolute emergency, please dial 911. Either way, we want you to know that you are not alone and that you don't have to struggle, and speak up, get help. There are resources available to you, and we are here to support you. If you're new around here, I want to introduce you to our host. I am Misty Buck. I am an author and a mental health and performance coach. And my co-hosts are Robert Bailey. He is the president of Rosenhaus Sports, the president of Kennedy Kids Foundation. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time college national champion. He's an NFL record holder, and he's an ESPY winner. And we are also joined by Bailey Brooks Masburn. She is a celebrity wedding and event planner, a former NFL cheerleader, and the executive director of the Kennedy Kids Foundation.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Today we are super duper excited. We filmed a show in Miami. We got another hometown hero for you. We have none other than Rod Mack. He is a proud native of Miami Gardens whose impact reaches far beyond the football field. Rod was a standout scholar athlete at Pace High School, where he earned All-Dade and All-State honors, served as a team captain, and was named Most Valuable Defensive Player. And later on, he was inducted into the school's Hall of Fame. But of course, he didn't stop there. He went on to play at the University of Miami as a starting linebacker and 4-year letterman, graduating with dual degrees, which is super impressive, in business management and finance. He went on to start his career on Wall Street, but then returned home and founded Onyx Financial Management Group, helping professional athletes and their families, and families in general, build lasting wealth through education and planning. And then in 2010, he co-founded the Miami Gardens Ravens Youth Football Academy, which you may have heard of. And if you haven't, go check him out. It's grown into the city's largest volunteer youth program with 16 national champions, more than 150 collegiate athletes, and thousands of young people impacted through their mentorship and leadership. So Rod joins us today, taking a break from the campaign trail as he runs for City Council of Miami Gardens. So Rod Mack, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I have to take you with me everywhere I go. I love that.
Yeah. She's good. She's good. Rod, she really give you your flowers, man, for, and you well deserved, Rod. You are a guy in this community that just has influenced from high school, then in college at University of Miami, one of the greatest football colleges in the country, and then to go back into the community and help these kids, work on their football skills and teach them how to be men. You are a real leader in this community, and I'm glad you're really getting into politics and going to have an even more bigger impact from a community service. Tell us a little bit of what you're running for and why you're running, and what you're trying to get done. Give us a little bit of insight.
Yep. So I'm running for Miami Gardens City Council, seat 4. I choose to run because I love service. As you said earlier, Rob, it started with me and found the passion in youth sports, giving back to the families and the communities. And I just have a desire to help. A desire to help build. It's a community which I grew up in, the community in which I love. I think I have the insight, and over my years of business and finance and all the other ventures I've been involved in, I think I can really help my community grow into the next millennium. I'm looking forward to making it a safer, better community with, meeting the everyday needs of just the regular homeowner, man, to the regular resident, being there for our seniors and supporting them in the ways they need to be supported, making sure that we continue to mentor and guide our youth. And also with my business background, helping to bring more business opportunities and make it easier for people to start and grow business in the community. So those things I'm really excited about.
That sounds like a great foundation to start really for your campaign. That's great. Giving back, building within the community. Let's talk a little bit about, when we talk about community, right? This is a University of Miami community.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? How excited? I mean, come on. How excited are you right now about what University of Miami did and what they're going to do?
Tremendously excited. I can't put it into words, right? I think we both, for a number of years, 20 years, we have not been relevant in December for a very long time. In November, late in the season, usually the University of Miami football season was over. So to see what we're building there, to see the competition for position battles that are there, to see the direction of the program, I am extraordinarily excited about it. Not only playing for the University of Miami, but I'm a diehard fan. I grew up. I don't want to age you. I don't want to date you. But
it's okay.
I grew up
87 to 91. I don't mind dating myself. 87, 91, University of Miami.
Absolutely. So I remember watching you guys and watching you play, and just always want to be a part of it. And to have that opportunity to be a part of it is one of my most proud accomplishments in my life.
Right. You're from this community, Rod. Mm-hmm. You went to college in this community, and now you're running in this community, your campaign in this community.
Yeah.
Many great athletes, leave the community to go to college and then play football in that community. And then when their football career is over in college, they end up leaving that community and going back home. You're here in this community, and you've always had a major influence in this community. And I love the fact that you went into coaching, because now you get an opportunity to influence these young kids, right? When it comes to the kids and what you've noticed over the years, working with these young kids, what's the difference you think in their mentality now than in the past? Because I know you've been coaching in youth league for a long time. You've been in the community for a long time.
Yeah.
What are some of the things mentally that you think you've noticed a change over time between the kids that you're dealing with now compared to the kids in the past?
I think as time goes on, and it's just as if our parents told us, I think kids feel more entitled, right?
Right.
They are not put in as many situations to overcome challenges.
That's a good one.
They're not put in as many situations. When we played the game and when our parents, we just went out and we played, and you had to deal with adversity. And I think we are now in such a generation that parents are so involved in it now because of social media, because of they want to post pictures and edits, and even at a very, very young age, you see that now. So the kids aren't getting an opportunity to be able to deal with adversity, and they feel like now, because they have to overcome as many challenges, they're under the impression just because you want it, you should have it, and not really understanding that there are no guarantees. You have to be able to deal with the failures of it. I try to do a good job of communicating that to the parents and letting them know that, hey, you're here, you're on the sideline, you watch, but you have to. I always tell them, your child, he belongs to me. those hours he's at practice, right?
Right.
And in that time, I try to do a good job of creating scenarios in which they have to overcome adversity. You know, between competition, between being held accountable, those things are going to carry them further. So I think that's the biggest thing you see now, that the kids are more involved with sports for the pageantry of the game. And what I mean by that is putting on a uniform and looking pretty. And it's less about the pure competition, Rob. You know, when we were younger, we could play the game without a scoreboard, without a clock. You know, you and I could.
Without anything. Without anything.
But anybody, you know, we were playing.
No.
It could just be us with nobody around, and you wouldn't want to lose and I wouldn't want to lose. And we can really come to blows just in the competition and loving the competition.
Yeah.
Now, with everything that's around them, with the social media and all the glitz and glamour of that, it's less about the kids purely loving the competition of it and wanting to play just because they love to compete. You know, if it makes sense, they just want to win and they just want to look good. They want to put the uniform on. They want to take the pictures. They want to pose. They want to do all of those things. But the competition isn't as important as it was when we played the game.
Yeah. So you know, Rod, you bring up the pageantry.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about that, because I think, you know, the first time I saw a 7-on-7 team get on a private jet to go play football, and I absolutely could not believe it. And these kids have shoe deals. The team has shoe deals. They're being given thousands of dollars in gear. They're taking private jets. They're eating at high-end restaurants. They're staying in high-end hotels, 5-star hotels, top hotels, flying around the country. You're in that space.
Yep.
You're in that space. These are kids that you're going after to come play in your community and play on your team.
Yep.
How do you see the future of our government and the way things are going to be ran in the future based off of this kind of upbringing? How do you think that's going to impact our community in the future, when all of these kids that now are going to become leaders, who were given a lot of things, as you mentioned, right? They didn't have to work for it, and they didn't grow up in a society where they were allowed to fail so they can learn on their own. Their hands were held. Parents didn't let them fail. How do you see the future moving forward when these kids end up leading our country or leading our communities?
I want to say, I'm not sure. I'm sure at some point in the show we'll probably dive deeper into this, but I see it causing depression issues. I think the kids are going to struggle a lot with being adults, because that is a false sense of reality. You and I both know that, and that is not life, and it won't be life for the great majority of them. So I think that we're not. Those kids you won't get, well, let me say this. It depends on the parents, right? And it's going to depend on the leadership and the conversation that you're having with the kid. And if you allow them to get caught up in the material part of it, it's going to be an issue. I have a son that, we went through the 707 circuit, and they got the shoes and they got all of those things. And I had a ton of kids come through my program that, we led through that whole gauntlet of things. Some of them wound up being some of the top players in the country. And so I've seen it all. And it's the adults around them. It's the conversation that you're having with them to be appreciative of these things, but also remind them that this is not what it's about. This is not what the game is about. This is not, that you're getting this privilege, but this is not going to be your life unless you do X, Y, Z to maintain that. So if they're not having these conversations with the kids, I don't see us getting great leaders out of that, because again, you're going to raise a generation and it's already have this stigma on athletes already, but you can imagine they say athletes are selfish, and we always say that, and we had to work for things. So imagine this generation of kids who are giving all these things. We're going to raise entitled, selfish men.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I've never seen the word entitlement being used so much as of late, maybe in the last 5 years, man. There's just everyone is using it. Obviously, it's because a lot of things are happening within our community. A lot of kids, fighting parents, fighting teachers, cussing back at coaches. And it's just, there is a tremendous sense of entitlement that they are going through, right? They're having, just growing up the way they're growing up. Just to kind of go back in time in your past, how you grew up in this community, your journey. Yeah. Was there a time in your life, Rod, that, you went through a tough time? What was that time? Because we all go through some sort of, depression or sadness or whatever it may be. What was that like for you, and how did you come out of that? Right? What were some of the tools you used to get out of that? And do you, with that experience, do you talk to your son? How do you raise your kids based off of that experience? So
for me, I think obviously growing up, we all had things in life as a younger person, but I think the most, for me, one of the toughest times was in college, honestly, getting injured in college, having that injury, and having the realization that your body was not able to do what you can do before that, and having to deal with that. I think that was the toughest thing for me, from a depression standpoint, going through that. And, I think some of the coping mechanisms, first of all, let me say this. I don't think I truly addressed that. I think it was more of an avoidance. When football was over for me, I think it was more of an avoidance of it. I think that I poured my energy into other things, as far as professionally and professionally in life, and tried to become successful in other ways, because when football was taken away from me. But I never really dealt with that trauma of, going from being an athlete, and you know what it was like, Rob. Yeah. When from the first time you go to the doctor's office on your own and you're not an athlete, you have to wait in the lobby, was just like, what is this? We never had to do that, right? So, those things are just, it's a transition that most people don't understand, or even just having to be from a little kid, growing up, I ran AAU and I was good in track and I was good in football, and always being one of the better athletes, to now getting everything that came with that just kind of left. So it was depressing. It was something I think I didn't deal with until I got an opportunity to get into coaching the kids. And that was therapeutic for me. So it helped me deal with it. It helped me deal with it. It brought me back around the game in the way that it caused me to deal with it. And so from there, I think what was therapy for me is actually talking to the younger generation for me, and being able to pour into the kids and learning some of the things I wish somebody would have told me at a young age. So I stress to my young kids, especially to my kids, my son who plays for the University of Miami and
he's been dealing with some injuries.
Yeah, and he had to deal with injuries, and I'm proud of the way I raised him, because as soon as he got to college, he got hurt. So his first 2 years now, he's been hurt. He hadn't had the opportunity to practice maybe 6 times. He was hurt. So him having to deal with that and watching him go through it, and I watched him deal with it valiantly and continue to go on, and I was proud of him. But I told him, and my daughter's a level 10 gymnast. She'll be a Division I gymnast. So she's in her as well to deal with all of that, and every kid that comes from around me. I tell them that, football, in his case, football is what you do. It's not who you are. So it sounds simple, but from a very young age, I let the kids know it's what you do. It's not who you are. So because if you start with an 8-year-old or 9-year-old, Rob, we start playing football young, and we allow them to identify themselves as only a football player.
Yeah.
And when that's taken away from you, because I don't care how good you are, it's going to be taken away from you at some point. And it's hard to deal with that. It's hard to make that transition if you only identify as a football player, or my daughter only identifies as a gymnast. I want them to understand and try to make them a well-rounded, around a human being and make them have interest in other areas. And that does not diminish our commitment to the game or to your sport and putting everything into that. But you have to find yourself being more than that. So for me, I found, it was therapeutic for me to be around the game and be able to give these lessons to other kids and to give it to that wasn't given to me. But I really didn't address those things until I got around the game. Before that, it was avoidance for me. It was like, just when I'm going to the games, it was that just not really dealing with it. So it was therapeutic for me to just find myself back around the game and give it to the next generation for me.
We heard that before, right, Misty? Like, football is not, I think Randa Hill said that, it is not who you are, it's what you do. Yep. I may be wrong, Misty, but I think
it was Randall or Alonzo Highsmith. Like one of them.
Yeah, it may have been Alonzo. It may have been Alonzo Highsmith that said football is what you do. It's not who you are, because when it is and you lose it, it's like losing your whole entire, as you mentioned, your whole identity. You truly go in a spiral out of control. You've lost yourself. Absolutely. But if you look at it as just something you're doing and you lose it, you go to something else you can do.
Absolutely.
And that's an amazing phrase. I think that more kids need to hear that every stage is just a chapter of the book. It isn't the whole entire book. Oh. I think a lot of kids from a young age, Rod, that's on social media and from TikTok, Instagram, all the different platforms, that they have these influencers on there, and they see from a very young age, they see the money and the glitter and the glam and the clothes and all this. They start to believe that's who they want to be and that's who they are. It's not what they do. So that's why a lot of the kids, when you take their phones or they go crazy or they get kicked off of social media, man, they're like, what's happening? What's happening? They go into depression. And I believe what you're saying is basically these kids at this age now are looking at things at a younger age and they're identifying it with who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that's the scary part for me, because you're going to be consumed with the game if you love it, but we have to also have that separation for these young kids. But nobody's doing that now. We allow them to believe that everyone is going to be in the NFL, that everyone is going to have the cars. And this, when we played the game, it was more about, I wanted to just play in the game. I wanted that part. I wanted to be able to do what you did, run down on the NFL field and play in that game. That was the most important thing to me. And I think for a lot of us now, that's only a small part. It's the other things. It's the chains and it's the car and it's being able to be on social media and it's being able for your parent and the parents as well, because the parents are just as fault as the kids. They want to be able to post the edits and everything.
All of that plays a factor. That's who I am. Yeah. My mom's taking pictures. My dad's posted. My girlfriend posted. I'm posted. That's who I am. And then when they don't have success in that area, there's tremendous depression in our community.
Tremendous depression in our community. And we don't communicate enough about it in our community. So that's the scariest part for me, because, 1 in 5 young persons struggling with some form of mental health. And so we know it's real. We know it's real. And we don't, it's taboo to talk about it. Right. Yeah. And definitely, in our community, in our community, it's taboo. We don't communicate enough about it. So we can't recognize it or identify it because our grandparents didn't talk about it. Our parents didn't talk about it. So it was never pointed out to us. So sometimes we can't even, we are dealing with that depression, but don't even know it. You know what I mean? Right. It's I can give the analogy. It's like if you were born with a knife stuck in your back, you don't even know you've always had this in place.
You always had it. You don't even know you had a knife in your back.
You don't even know it. You know what I mean? And sometimes like that with us dealing with that depression, it's just, it's just what it is. Or any form of, mental health issues. We don't communicate enough about it. We don't know that. We can't recognize it. We don't understand that a lot of it, or some of it is hereditary and it runs in the family, and we don't know to look out for those things because we don't communicate about it. It's taboo, and a lot of times in our community, Rob, we have that's your crazy uncle thing. You know what I mean? And it's not identified, or because it's not identified in that way, our kids go to school and we don't want to put them in the classes they may need so they can get the support that they need because it's taboo. So what you guys are doing, talking about it and bringing awareness to it and making it a conversation that we can have all the time, I think is tremendous, and it'll go a long way to solving it and saving lives.
Right. Misty deals with athletes and their mental health approach to sports.
Really?
I would like to get her take on some of the things you've said.
Yeah, I mean, obviously identity is always a huge piece of it. Resilience is a huge piece of it. I obviously educate on mental health and wellness and what that looks like, and emotions and naming them, and how do you know when something's really off, right? But then there's also this piece that I teach of a winning mindset. So, and the R in it's called my prime method, my signature system. And in that is resilience. And I think it's so interesting what you were saying about the adversity and feeling entitled, because it's about learning resilience. And if you don't realize that your whole life is going to be full of challenges constantly, you're going to be always suffering, right? Because you're like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Versus, okay, this is a challenge, and I can see it as an opportunity to reframe it as an opportunity to level up. I can see it as an opportunity to tap into parts of myself that I wouldn't know even existed if I didn't challenge myself to reach that, right? So I love that you're sharing that, like talking about these things in your community and in your programs that you're doing. And I do want to ask you, you did just touch on this. Mental health, we are in the thick of it, right? And one thing that I will give this generation credit for is they are much more, in general, much more in tune with words like anxiety, depression. And I think social media helps and hurts with that in some ways.
Yeah, because they're younger when they're having those symptoms of those words.
But they're more exposed to it, for better or for worse. Sometimes it's misinformation. Sometimes it's more of an awareness than certainly we had growing up, right?
Right.
So, but either way, we're definitely in the thick of it for various reasons. And your shirt says brighter future, right? Yep. So, how do we help our current generations, or maybe bridge that gap between the older generations that don't want to recognize it, don't want to talk about it, it's taboo, like a lot of people are still fighting that within themselves, right?
Yeah.
How do we bridge that gap between to help our teens have a brighter future with their mental health and wellness, help our communities have a better future with mental health and wellness? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Again, I think what you guys are doing now, just making it okay to talk about it, making it okay to educate. I think we need more forums. We just need more exposure to the topic. We need to be able to communicate about it more. And just the more you bring awareness, I guess, that is, everyone says that, but real awareness, real conversations. And I agree with you, Misty. I think that our young people would lead those conversations, because they do communicate more about, they have had the forums in the space because of social media, for good or bad, to talk about it. And I think but now it's teaching them, someone like you, teaching them the correct way to communicate and talk about it, or the symptoms, or to identify these things. And that's what I see. I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that change. I want to be a part of helping these kids to identify, because they're going to have challenges that they're going to have to deal with that we didn't, because you said the word resilience. I don't know if they have the resilience that we had, because they have not had to deal with the adversity, overcome the challenges we had.
Adversity builds the resilience.
Yes. So I don't know. So I'm open to suggestions, and I want to be a part of that change, because we know what's coming.
I got a suggestion.
Yeah.
So Kennedy kids, we do a ambassador program at Seed High School that Misty helped put together. Mm-hmm. And she's going to tell you about it. Mm-hmm. Since I was just going to talk about it, but it's Misty's baby, and I want Misty to tell you about it. It's a great idea, something maybe you should think about, on your journey. Go ahead, Misty.
Yeah, definitely, in the communities that you're a part of. Very short summary. We've just launched our first ambassador program. It's sort of like a club within the school. They meet weekly. We give them a list of topics. It's a whole booklet, and they lead these conversations. Of course, it's one certified or licensed mental health professional in the room, leading these teens, having these conversations around mental health and wellness, different topic every week. We bring in guest speakers. We're also offering a scholarship to one of the teens in the program. But the idea is to help them have a space where they are safe and it is dedicated to working towards mental health and wellness, but that they can also serve as an ambassador within their school and among their peers, right? And really serve as leadership, but it's leadership through learning about yourself and connecting with your peers in that space. And then that gives you the ability and the tools to be identified as a leader to others in the school and others in your peer group as somebody who, is leading the way on that, right? So, and in a way that's healthy, not just like, let me search this on TikTok and look up my symptoms and whatever is happening, right? So, so the ambassador program, we're looking to expand that. It's a pilot program. We're looking to expand it, hopefully.
So it's an amazing program. The way I look at it, Rod, is we drop, no pun intended, but we drop seeds in each classroom, which are the ambassadors. Yeah. And they're there and they're identified because they wear one of these in school. Mm-hmm. And they're identified as the ambassador. And these are kids that are actually in the school with their peers, and they are going through their normal activity, but also they're aware of what's happening around them with their peers. So if they see another peer, another one of their friends having a hard time, having a mental issue, they are then there to bridge the gap, right? They're there to say, hey, my friend is going through this. We need to help her or him. And the kids also know that if something's going on with them, they can go to one of the ambassadors and tell the ambassador, who is not an adult, which could sometimes be pretty, the word eludes me, but it could be almost a little bit fearful to tell an adult that it's easier to talk to your friends, right? You're going through a breakup, you're going to tell your friend before you go home and tell your mom and dad. Yes. You were like, man, I can't believe that girl did this or whatever. Oh man, I could kill her. I could do this. I think words are being said, and then so the ambassadors are there to identify kids who are going through tough times and to help them through those tough times by getting them in the right channels. So for you and what you're doing, that's a small program. Maybe it's something that you could do within the community, right? Put out more ambassadors just in the community, and then have, monthly meetings at the city hall, and just talk about mental health and bring kids in and create a program where it is something that's talked about. Because at the end of the day, Rod, the awareness brings the education, and within the education are the tools. Yeah. So when the kids and the parents have learned when they learn about the tools, then they could talk about it at home at the dinner table. Kids could talk about it, and before calling 911, they can at least help their child before picking up the phone to call 911 or to call 988. They have some of the tools to maybe bring the child down from a dangerous situation. Yeah. So that's the concept of our ambassador program at the Seed School. And so that's kind of like one of the ways that we're trying to bridge the gap between it, instead of being reactive, we're trying to be proactive.
I understand. I like that. I like that. And I think it's something that we can, especially as I grow in the political world, in the community, and get in the space that, really can affect this type of change. I think it's a conversation that we can have more about it. We could dialogue and figure out a way to get it into the community as a whole.
Do you talk to your kid? Do you talk to your football players about mental health, the young kids? Have you started that yet? Is that something you're thinking about doing?
We do. As they get older, it's a conversation we have. And I started with what I told you, just allowing them to understand that about football and where it falls, and the importance that we have it. And we start with that because I know a lot of their struggles come from that. I pride myself is developing an individual relationship with all the kids that's so I have my own relationship, and I open up a space for them to be able to communicate with me. I have little tricks that I kind of do with them, and sometimes I'm with them and their parents, and I may have your son, and we may have something, and he'll tell me something, and you'll get involved, and I'll be like, no, this is me and his conversation. You got to get out of it. So, and I make them feel comfortable, feeling like they can say something to me,
right,
that I won't say it to you. And
right,
so,
it stays with you.
Stays with me, so so I'm another outlet. So when they go through something, a lot of kids come to me and say, "Coach, can I talk to you about this? Can I do this?" And I create a safe space that they feel comfortable. They can talk to me about it, and I'll put you in a situation. It could be something simple. And I'm like, "Well, that's between me and them. It's not of the business, And so it gives them that space. So I try to do that so they can communicate with me, and it's been successful. I had a lot of kids over the years come to me about everything from mental health issues to questions with sexuality issues, all of those things. And I'm happy that they're comfortable being able to talk to me about it and just being another resource for them. So in that way, I do address it.
Right. Misty, what's the right age? What's the right age to talk to a kid about mental health, Misty? Is there a right age?
I don't think there's a wrong age. I mean, right. I think there's always a way to have the conversations. You can have them, you phrase it differently, obviously, when they're younger, the younger they are, that you can even start to teach them, oh, this is an emotion, right? Yeah. Teaching them to say, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated. And then what do I do with that? I can imagine it as a cloud passing it in the sky, because it's going to come and go. I can see it as a fish swimming in the water, right? There's this show for toddlers that my son watches. It's called Miss Rachel. If you have a little kid, you know this show. It is like the show. And she teaches the kids to take a breathing break. And the way she does it is you smell the flowers, so that's inhaling, and then you blow out the birthday candles, exhaling. And that's the cute little breathing exercise that she teaches them. Yeah, so I think, you can start it at any age in terms of understanding your emotions, understanding how to process those things, and that can start super young.
Yeah. So for me, and I know we have to go here, but I had a situation with one of my kids, and he was 11 at the time, and him and his mom were going through tough times, and they were in a situation, they were getting evicted out of their home, and in the midst of packing that up, somebody stole their car. Believe it or not. And I was out of town. I was in Cincinnati at a football game, and we were communicating, and he told me, he was like, Coach, I don't want to live anymore. I feel like I want to kill myself. And
11.
And he told me that, and he told it to me. So I had to, it was my responsibility. I got on my way to get on the plane, man. I first of all, I was happy that he was comfortable to have that conversation with me, and I'm so happy I was able to get involved in that kid's life on another level. He moved with me. I wound up letting his mom get herself together, live with me, and that kid wound up being one of the top players in the country. What
an amazing story, Rod.
And I remind, we talk about that now, with his struggles of where he came from in that day. and me just being involved in it. So, it was 11 years old. He said, what age? At that age, he had those emotions, and he was able to communicate with me. And, I was happy I was in a position that, I was in a position that I was able to help him.
But thank God you had created that space that he felt comfortable enough to share that with you, because that does not always happen. To say the least. That's a gift.
Yeah, and it is. And I was just thankful to the Creator that I was able to be there in that space.
Misty's right, Rod. That is a gift that you created such a connection with the kids that you coach, that they feel like you are a father figure or a figure that is trustworthy. It says a lot about just that story to me, says a lot about who you are as a person, your character. Because if you weren't a good guy, kids they can sense when someone cares about them and when someone does not. Right?
Absolutely.
This kid had the wherewithal to call you and tell you what was going on. Ultimately saved his life.
Yeah.
That call, he made the decision. That's what we're trying to do, Rod. We're trying to empower kids and give them a space to communicate what they're feeling and how they're feeling, but also accept help within that space and accept help within that communication. Not just say it, but actually accept the help and understand what they're going through. So the fact that happened to you says a lot about you as a person, and I'm glad you're trying to take this journey in politics to give back more in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
100%.
So as we get ready to wrap, because I know we're running short on time here, it's always hard to believe how fast these conversations
it goes super fast.
Maybe we can get you back on here one of these days.
Absolutely. I enjoy it. I would love it.
Tell people how they can reach you.
You can reach me. You can email me at Rod at vote4 rodmack.com.
Say that one more time.
You can reach me at Rod at vote4 rodmack.com.
Vote4rodmack.com.
Awesome. Got it. And real quick, we're going to close out, tell you about the foundation. But Rod, this is a question we ask everybody. Again, short on time, you can keep it super simple and short if you want. But when you're feeling stressed or you're not in a great space with your mental health, what are a couple things that you do to help turn that around for yourself?
I meditate now. I learned meditation.
How long it take you to learn that?
Hey man, I got the Calm out, man, and it helps me out. I don't know the plug, but I learned.
Every time I try to meditate, man, I fall asleep.
No, man,
that's all right.
I learned. Hey, I promise you, man, that it helps. I'm telling you, in the morning it helps, man. I get up and I do that, and I promise you, it works. I was skeptical, but it works.
I'm trying to get it, man.
It's like everything else. Everything else is a challenge. For me, it's hard. It was very difficult for me to be able to block everything out of my mind and just focus and just on my breathing and just focus on that and let everything else go. It's a challenge. Every day is not successful in doing that, but it is it is something I picked up and it really helps me.
That's awesome. You guys are going to love. Next week, we're having on George Mumford, who is like the athlete meditation performance mindfulness whisper, the GOAT. So you all got to check out that one. I'm sure you'll get some good tips. But Rod, that was awesome. I use a different app, but yes, the apps are awesome for meditating. And I'm with you on that one. May not be for everybody, but I'm with you on that. For sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I got to get on it.
Yeah, for sure. You got to try it. All right. Well, I want to thank you again for being on the show. Of course, anyone who's listening, if you are struggling or in a crisis, there is the free 988 confidential crisis prevention line you can call or text 24/7, again, completely confidential. If you are in an absolute emergency, dial 911. And if you're looking for additional resources, head to kennedykids.org and check out our resources tab. Or if you'd like to figure out how to get involved and you want to be a part of this solution that we've been talking about with mental health, we are always welcoming to anyone who wants to support our cause in a myriad of different ways. So on that note, Rod, again, thank you. Get back on that campaign trail.
Thanks, Rod.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You're great, man.